Yo, 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 what is happening, people? How's it going? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're taking a closer look at my new Go Anywhere, Do Anything PC, which I put together last week. The build video is already up. You can go check it out if you haven't already. Essentially what this rig is, and the objective of this build, was to build something that I could bring with me on the go to events like LAN Syndicate in Seattle, as well as Computex all the way in Taipei. So these are really meant for long-distance travel, something that I'm going to be taking with me on a plane in a carry-on bag. Carry-on size was very important to me because I just prefer to have my really expensive computer hardware with me and not put it in the hands of, you know, the airport or TSA or whatever it is. So this, fortunately, the Node 202 case that we're rocking here does fit in a carry-on size bag. But there were some good questions and comments that you guys brought up in the first video, which was, if you're looking for something portable that you can just, you know, take with you and go, why not just get a laptop? And that's a very, very good point, because that would be a lot easier, granted, to just be able to put that into a backpack. So for portability, I completely agree with you 100%. It already comes with, you know, a monitor. You don't have to bring a monitor or a separate keyboard with a laptop, whereas you do have to bring all your various peripherals with a desktop. However, I'm going to be posting a video probably as we get closer to LAN Syndicate, showing you guys exactly which peripherals I'm using and how I'm going to fit everything, all those things, inside of a single carry-on bag, which should be pretty sweet. And the fact that I'm using a carry-on, this is meant for a carry-on, also gives me a little bit more breathing room and leeway to work with than, let's say, if I were trying to squeeze everything into a backpack, because this Node 202 here is certainly a bit too wide to fit in most backpacks out there. So the other reason why I went with the desktop over a laptop is because the amount of power that's in this thing, the amount of sheer horsepower, would cost a fortune in laptop form. That's just the nature of notebooks, guys. I would have to spend easily $2,000-3,000 plus in order to replicate the amount of processing power that's in this system. By the way, it's a 6700K as well as an R9 Nano from AMD. But yeah, I mean, I already have a very nice gaming laptop. It's a GS60 Ghost Pro from MSI, and it's got a GTX 970M in there. Very great, awesome mobile processor. I also did a video on that whole laptop, but it honestly just pales in comparison to the sheer amount of power that this thing has. So, and then the last reason why I went with the desktop, other than the fact that I really like building PCs, is an upgrade path. So I really wanted to have the option to slap in a new video card or something like that, or a new processor or a new chipset or whatever it is, more memory and that sort of thing, the day that any one of those parts gets old, or that it just isn't cutting it anymore. And with a laptop, sure, if you're, you know, strictly memory bound or storage bound, you can generally swap out those components in most notebooks. However, if, you know, your CPU or your GPU is just getting really sluggish, pretty much the only option you have with a laptop is to buy a new one, and I didn't want to run into that issue. So overall, pretty happy with my choice here. I'm sticking with it, going with a full-blown desktop. But on that note, why don't we go ahead and crack open the why don't we go ahead and switch over to the desktop here, so you can get an idea of what I'm looking at on this system. By the way, I'm using this PC to record this video. That's why it's all hooked up and stuff. So, fun fact. Also, you should probably go full screen right now if you're watching this, so that you can see all the little numbers and stuff that we're about to check out. So right now I've got Sapphire Tricks open. It's overclocking software from Sapphire, of course, just like MSI Afterburner or Precision X from EVGA. The reason why I chose Strix initially was because it allows you to overclock HBM, which the R9 Nano has. However, anytime I try to mess with it, even if it's like a 5 megahertz, you know, overclock, even with like the power limit increased, it just crashes every single time, and I didn't really have time to troubleshoot anything. So if you guys have any idea why I can't overclock HBM right now, go ahead and blow up the comments and let me know, and I'll check it out later. But apart from that, this is a great overclocking tool. As we're about to see, there are some issues when overclocking the R9 Nano, or let's just ignore overclocking for a moment. If you're just running the Nano at stock clock frequencies, it does have a tendency to throttle, and the reason why is because it only has a smaller power envelope than, say, the Fury or the Fury X. It only has 175 watt TDP compared to 275 watt on those other two cards, and so because we're dealing with a smaller power power envelope, we're seeing a lot of throttling, and I'll give you an example of that right here with Unison Heaven 4.0. You can see right now we are at stock, we're operating. I've got GPU-Z open here, and these aren't the max values. These are just the real-time values that the card is spitting out right now. Hopefully this system doesn't crash as I'm making this video. But here we go. You can see right now we're at around 990 to 980 megahertz, but we're not actually hitting that 1000 megahertz at all. In fact, you know, granted, we are getting pretty close, and there are a couple instances where you do get that 1 gigahertz, that one, like right there, 1 gigahertz, that's great. However, it's not very consistent, and we're seeing frequent dips below that at just our regular stock frequency. So that's no good. We want to actually change that. And the reason why, additionally, why the R9 Nano throttles isn't just because of power, but it's thermals as well. And so you can see here I've set a pretty aggressive fan curve within Tricks to kind of aid in that throttling issue. So the first thing we want to do here, because this is power bound, we're going to increase the power limit and see how that affects our clock speed. So as you can see right now, we're operating consistently at 1000 megahertz, which is pretty amazing considering all we did was increase the power limit. Now, granted, if we had a more in-depth software to take a look at, you know, real-time statistics, we'd probably see a couple dips below 1000 megahertz, even with the power limit where it is. But that's okay because they're very slight compared to what we were just seeing, and overall, your gaming experience is going to be more or less smooth, and you're not going to really notice a difference. So I'm pretty happy about that. Now that we're actually hitting the frequency that our stock card is rated for, now we can begin to start overclocking the card. And I was already dialing in some stuff earlier before recording the video, and what I found to be a stable overclock for my card here was about 1045 megahertz. So we're going to go ahead and try that out. I'm going to click apply. Let's not crash. Because if I crash, if the system crashes, by the way, I have to start this video over from scratch because OBS won't actually record the video if I don't manually stop recording it. So fingers crossed, everyone. And now you can see we're at 1044 megahertz. I don't know why it went from 1045 to 1044, but whatever. We're pretty much at our desired overclock here, and we're hitting that consistently. And I can even open up the hardware monitor within Tricks just to get a second opinion here. Actually, it's probably using GPU-Z anyway, so they're going to be the same. But yeah, we're hitting a very consistent clock speed now. But the other thing I wanted to address here is system acoustics. Now, because the R9 Nano has an issue with thermal throttling, like I said, I had to make this fan curve pretty aggressive. We're going all the way up to 80 or so % on the GPU fan speed, just in order to maintain some decent thermals. But that's okay, because even though this system does get pretty noisy under load when gaming, it doesn't get noisy at all when I'm editing in Premiere Pro, for example. And that's really important to me because I get super distracted with fan noise when I'm editing. However, when I'm gaming, I'm using a pair of cans anyway, and all my sound is coming through my headphones. I can't hear the system at all. So even though, yes, acoustics aren't the greatest here, they're not going to be much of an issue for my purposes. So on that note, ladies and gentlemen, why don't we go ahead and take a look at our benchmarks here. So I ran 3 different games at 1440. So we're only doing quad HD results right now. The reason why is because I just feel like the R9 Nano kind of hits that sweet spot where it's great for 1440. It's a little bit overpowered for 1080 and not quite 4K ready as it's advertised. Plus, that's the resolution I could see myself gaming at for the most part with this system. So we're going to do quad HD results. However, I am testing both overclock frequencies as well as stock clock. So we're going to be able to see the impact that overclocking has on gaming performance with this card, which is pretty revealing, and it's good. I'm going to let you know right now it's good. So starting off with Metro Last Light, which is a very demanding title. As you can see here, all the quality settings that I'm using didn't enable PhysX or anti-aliasing, but overall we got an average frame rate of 66, so very playable frame rates all around. You can see the GPU was about 66 degrees Celsius, not too shabby. However, our 6700K, and this is where we're also talking about temps while I go over the benchmarks, the temps really aren't that great. We're getting 83 degrees Celsius on the hottest core, on core number 3. Fortunately, this was the hottest the chip ever got. Jeez. Did you guys hear that? Sorry, I live by a noisy street. Just ignore them. Yeah, so this is really not the greatest. I'm not too happy about that. I actually even had to disable turbo boost in the BIOS because just that extra 200 megahertz that the 6700K spits out that it can ramp to was just overheating the chip like a bitch, like a total bitch. It was getting to like 90 degrees Celsius, which is not okay. So bringing that down, disabling turbo boost really helped to alleviate some of the thermals there. But as you can see, it's getting pretty toasty. Let's go ahead and look at our overclock settings. We've got 74 frames per second on average, so that's a pretty nice boost there from going from 66 to 74. I didn't do the percentage and stuff this time, but you can figure it out yourself. It's actually a really nice boost from just a 46 or a 45 megahertz overclock there, without even touching the HBM, mind you. And as you can see, we're still pretty hot here on the 6700K with 81 degrees Celsius. It's not super alarming where it's like your system's going to blow up or melt, but it's not ideal either. And the GPU, 406 degrees Celsius. Man, that is quite toasty, I tell you. No, this is actually a bug with GPU-Z for whatever reason. Wasn't reading out correctly, and you're going to see that happen again later in the benchmarks. But on average, I was seeing the GPU hit anywhere from 75 to 76 degrees Celsius under load while gaming with my fan curve that I put in, which again is pretty beefy fan curve, getting up to pretty high RPMs there. But here's GTA 5 at stock frequencies. Once again, we're seeing pretty decent performance even at stock, 96.8 frames per second on average. Now this was a blend of high and very high settings in GTA 5. So the game looks super crispy, very nice, and there's a lot of eye candies turned on. However, MSAA is not. I figured since we're gaming at Quad HD, the jaggies aren't quite as noticeable, so might as well save some frames there by turning it off. Now you can see here the 6700K is doing a lot more reasonable in terms of temperatures. We're getting low 70s this time around, which is really nice to see, considering even the GTA 5 is a pretty CPU intensive game. So I was happy to see that. 494 degrees Celsius on the GPU. Woo! Woo! Is that hotter than last time? Yes, it rose. It rose by a whole almost 90 degrees. But again, just a bug, nothing to be alarmed of. And then going on to our overclock, 104 frames per second. So going from 96 or almost 97 to about 104. It's a modest gain, but still, definitely will get you a little bit more smoothies up in there. And then we're seeing the CPU really be put under load a bit more here at 79 degrees Celsius at the max core. Definitely quite a bit hotter than at stock. And then GPU is actually reading out pretty well right now, 70 degrees Celsius, so that's a bit more reasonable and in line with what the actual operating temperature is, not 400 whatever degrees. And then moving on to Crysis 3, our most demanding test for today, we saw an average of 53 frames per second on average. This is maxed out. This is completely maxed out with the exception of MSAA in Crysis 3. So that's just a nice way to show off the performance of the R9 Nano. It's flexing its muscles a little bit here. We've also got some decent temps, again, 71 degrees or 72 at the hottest core, and GPU, just don't pay attention to that. And then overclocking, we broke 60 frames per second, which is nice. So going from 53 to 60, very sizable gains right there. Mad gains, bro, mad gains all around with overclocking the Nano. And finally, we're taking a look at 3D Mark Firestrike Extreme. We got 6298 at stock. Again, don't look at the GPU temps. CPU temps were fairly decent in the low 70s, and then going to overclocked, we broke 7,000, which is really nice to see. Again, CPU temps looking good, and the GPU actually got fairly hot, fairly warm that time around. But granted, that was just with a synthetic benchmark and not real-world gaming, so I'm not too concerned about that. And I think that's pretty much it. Kind of sums up this video, more or less. We kind of blasted through that just now. So yeah, the other thing that I wanted to say before we head out, before I head out, is future plans for this guy might include, if I can, getting my hands on a 6700, a lock skew processor, and swapping it out for the 6700K that's currently in there, and using that chip just somewhere else where it can be overclocked and really realize its full potential, because it's just kind of a waste of performance in this system. Like I said in the first video, the only reason I used a 6700K is because I already had one lying around, didn't want to spend the extra $300-400 on a new chip, but that would be something to look out for for me in the future is if I can find a good deal on a lock skew processor. I might just do that. But let me know, guys, in the comments what you think of these numbers and these performance results that we've seen today. And yeah, perhaps in the future I'll do another one of these builds, but make it like even more portable and just as powerful, if not more so, that features liquid cooling for the CPU. Maybe we can go with a Core 500 from Fractal Design, or even one of those Silverstone, like the SG05 2.0 versions that support 120 rads and things like that. But yeah, that's for another time. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I know it's really loose kind of format today. I'm not even wearing pants. Actually, I never wear pants, so that's irrelevant. But yeah, sorry for the crappy webcam quality. Hopefully the mic sounds good, because that's a nice mic, and it's a mess in my room. So there you have it. It's one of those, just one of those videos, guys. It's just one of those days. Ow! No, it didn't really hurt. Being dramatic now. Okay, thank you guys for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Go ahead and toss me a like as well if you enjoyed this video, if you thought it was fun and insightful. And yeah, hope you guys have a good whatever day it is, and I'll see you guys very soon. Take it easy, guys. Peace.